The Book Essence Podcast. Episode 21. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Welcome to the deep dive. We take stacks of sources, notes, research, whatever you send us, and we pull out the key stuff, right? The things that give you a real understanding without spending weeks reading.
Exactly. And today we're focusing on financial literacy, wealth building, specifically drawing from the summary you sent over of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah. So our goal here is to, extract that core wisdom for you, those aha moments, maybe some practical steps that could shift how you think about money.
Think of it as a fast track, getting the gist of how wealthy people approach finance maybe differently.
Right. We're trying to skip the heavy jargon, the overwhelm. We'll look at these contrasting ideas, the poor dad versus the rich dad, to find some, maybe some surprising ideas, things that might reshape how you see your finances.
Okay, so where do we start? The fundamental mindset shift seems like the big one.
Yeah, absolutely. That central idea. The rich don't just work for money. They figure out how to make money work for them.
That's the pivot, isn't it? Everything else kind of hangs on that single idea.
And the contrast he paints is so clear. You've got the poor dad educated, emphasizes job security.
Yeah.
Work hard, get the paycheck, stable.
The traditional path.
But then there's a rich dad, more entrepreneurial, always talking about financial education, investing, just a completely different worldview, it seems.
Operating on different financial philosophies, absolutely. And that story, the early one about Kiyosaki and his friend working for the rich dad for like 10 cents an hour.
Oh yeah, that's powerful. His frustration after a few weeks realizing he wasn't learning how to make money, just, how to be an employee.
That's the light bulb moment right there.
Yeah.
It introduces this whole concept he calls the rat race.
The rat race. That feeling of, the fear of not having enough money, but also the desire for nice things, how that combo can trap you.
Yeah, it keeps you working harder and harder, maybe earning more, but not really getting ahead financially. It's just running faster on the wheel.
Does that sound familiar to anyone listening? I bet it does.
And what's really clever, or maybe instructive, is how the rich dad tests him, offers him a raise, more money.
Right. To show how easily that promise of more can keep you stuck. Focus on the paycheck, not the principles.
Exactly. Kiyosaki apparently saw through it, which leads to the big takeaway for you, the listener. Building wealth isn't just about earning more. It's about understanding how money actually works.
Yeah, understanding it and then using that knowledge. Which brings us nicely into the next bit. The power of financial literacy itself, beyond just your income level.
Right, because this is where Kiyosaki really pushes back against common assumptions. He argues pretty strongly that a high salary doesn't automatically mean you're financially secure.
It's the intelligence behind it, your financial IQ, so to speak.
Precisely. And central to that intelligence is understanding this difference, this crucial difference between assets and liabilities.
Okay, assets and liabilities. Sounds simple on the surface, maybe, but Kiyosaki adds a twist, doesn't he?
He does. His definitions are key and they're very direct. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket.
Simple as that. But the implications.
Wow.
Huge implications.
Yeah.
Which leads directly to that idea that often stops people in their track.
The house thing. Your home, your biggest investment. Often not an asset.
According to his definition, often it's a liability. Now, hold on. It can appreciate in value, right? But think about the regular cash flow.
Okay, yeah. Mortgage payments.
Property taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance. It's constantly taking money out of your pocket.
Unless you're, say, renting out a room or something, generating income from it.
Exactly. Unless it's actively putting money in your pocket. By his definition, it's primarily a liability.
That really does flip the script, doesn't it? Completely changes how you might look at home ownership.
It does. And it connects directly to what summary calls the middle-class money trap. That cycle.
Work hard, get paid, buy the house with a big mortgage, maybe add car loans, credit cards. And suddenly your expenses just keep climbing. So you have to keep working harder just to cover everything. You're accumulating liabilities, not income-producing assets.
Yeah, the summary shows those cash flow patterns visually almost. Poor, middle class, rich. It's striking.
It is. And the key difference is priority. The poor and middle class often spend income first or buy liabilities they think are assets.
Like the big house or the new car.
Right. Whereas the rich, crucially, prioritize buying or creating assets first, things that generate income.
And then that income from the assets, starts to cover their expenses.
And provides more money to buy more assets. It's a totally different flow, a cycle that builds wealth, not just consumes income.
Really makes you wonder, why isn't this stuff taught more in school? Basic money management, asset building.
That's a major point Kiyosaki makes. He argues traditional schooling mostly prepares you to be a good employee, to find a job.
Not necessarily to be financially independent or understand how to build wealth outside of that job structure.
Exactly. It often lacks that practical financial literacy component.
Okay, so if school isn't teaching it, the responsibility falls on us, right? On you listening. Which leads to the next idea, minding your own business.
Yeah, and minding your own business here doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow or ignoring your boss. It means focusing on building your personal wealth column, your assets.
Separate from your salary. Creating your own financial engine, basically.
That's a great way to put it, because relying solely on a job, well, the summary points out it lacks true security. Promotions are great, but you're still dependent.
Feels uncertain sometimes, doesn't it? Your fate is kind of in someone else's hands.
And the wealthy, they seem to get this. They actively look for and acquire things that generate income passively, income not tied directly to their time.
Like building a team of moneymakers working for you in the background.
Exactly. And the examples are pretty broad. Rental properties are a classic one.
Stocks, bonds, maybe starting a side business.
Even intellectual property like royalties from books or music or inventions, anything that potentially brings money in regularly.
And the key is not doing what many people do when they get a raise, right? Which is
Immediately upgrading the lifestyle, bigger house, fancier car, which just increases the liabilities again.
keeps you in that rat race, just maybe a slightly nicer looking one. Higher income, but higher expenses too.
Whereas the wealthy tend to channel that extra income strategically into buying more of those income-generating assets.
Creating that snowball effect, where eventually the income from assets can cover your lifestyle.
That's the goal, right? Financial independence. Not needing the job, even if you choose to keep working.
And you don't need a fortune to start. The summary mentions starting small, even uses McDonald's as an example, not just burgers.
But the real estate, a huge part of their wealth is owning the valuable land their restaurants sit on. It shows asset accumulation can happen within another business.
It's a powerful point. Start building that asset column, even small. Start early. Okay, this naturally flows into something that can feel complex. Taxes.
Ah, yes, taxes. Kiyosaki argues understanding this is absolutely crucial, not just for saving money, but for understanding how the system works differently for different people.
The summary mentions the history, how taxes shifted.
Yeah.
But the key takeaway seems to be about corporations.
Right. The advantage the wealthy often leverage is using corporations legally to minimize their tax burden.
Okay, so break down that difference in flow. Employee versus someone using a corporation.
Okay, so typically an employee earns money, taxes get taken out first, then they spend what's left, right?
Yep, painfully familiar.
Someone using a corporation, and this could be a small business, not just huge companies, the corporation earns the money. Then it can pay for legitimate business expenses.
Things like maybe a home office, business travel, supplies, maybe even some education.
Exactly. Those expenses come out before taxes are calculated on the remaining profit. It's a difference in timing and what counts as deductible.
And this is all legal tax avoidance, not evasion. That's a super important distinction the summary makes.
Absolutely crucial. It's about understanding and using the existing tax code legally. This might involve having a business, investing in real estate with its deductions like depreciation, using debt smartly for investments.
Things that the average person, maybe without that financial education, just isn't aware of or doesn't know how to implement.
Exactly. So they might get a raise, but a bigger slice goes to taxes, while someone else with the same income increase but structured differently keeps more working for them.
So the message for you listening is, start learning about the tax laws that apply to you. Think like the wealthy. See if incorporating, even for a side hustle, makes sense legally and financially.
It's about adopting that mindset. Okay, so moving on from taxes, the next idea is really about shifting perspective again from just managing money to actively creating it.
Inventing money. Sounds exciting. What does that actually mean?
It means moving beyond just trading time for dollars. It's about financial creativity, spotting opportunities others miss, structuring deals, using financial intelligence to generate wealth.
And that intelligence, he breaks it down into 4 key areas, right? Like legs on a stool.
Yeah, the 4 pillars. Accounting, understanding the numbers, financial statements, investing, making money make more money, understanding markets, knowing supply, demand, trends, And the law: taxes, corporate structures, regulations.
Got it. And a big part of this is that mindset shift again from, I can't afford it, to asking, how can I afford it?
Yeah.
That second question forces your brain to look for solutions, for possibilities.
The first one just shuts the door.
Exactly, it's a dead end. The second one opens things up, makes you engage that financial intelligence.
And this often involves taking some risks.
The summary also mentioned leverage, using OPM and OPT, other people's money and other people's time.
Yes. Key concepts. Using a bank loan for a rental property, that's leveraging the bank's money. OPM.
You control a big asset with less of your own cash down.
Right. Starting a business and hiring staff, you're leveraging their time. OPT, so you can focus on strategy and growth. Raising capital from investors is another classic OPM example.
It accelerates things. But the flip side is being too safe,
Right.
letting fear stop you entirely.
That's the danger Kiyosaki highlights. Playing it so safe, you never actually build substantial wealth. Inflation eats away at savings, while calculated investments have the potential to grow much faster.
Okay, so we've talked money systems, mindset, but the next lesson shifts focus. It's about skills, work to learn.
This is such a critical point. Prioritize gaining valuable skills and knowledge, even if the job doesn't pay the most right now. Think long-term value over short-term cash.
Because the wealthy tend to develop a broad range of skills, not just hyper-specialized in one thing.
Generally, yes. Skills like sales, marketing, investing, management, communication, negotiation. A broader business and financial toolkit provides more options and resilience.
Sales and communication come up specifically as being vital, things maybe not emphasized enough academically.
Hugely vital. You can have the best idea or product, but if you can't communicate its value or sell it, you won't get far. Many technically brilliant people struggle financially because they lack these skills.
So the idea is maybe take a job to learn a specific skill, sales maybe, or project management, even if the pay isn't top dollar initially.
Exactly. See it as investing in yourself, acquiring assets. Skills are assets that will pay off hugely down the line in your own ventures or future roles.
It links back to that idea of true security. It's not job itself necessarily, but your knowledge, your skills, your financial literacy, that's portable, that's adaptable.
Precisely. Markets change, industries decline. A specific job skill might become obsolete, but understanding finance, business, sales, those are adaptable principles. Avoid the one skill trap.
Right. Keep learning. The summary lists those key areas again: accounting, investing, sales, marketing, leadership. A good checklist for personal development.
Definitely. Those form the foundation of financial and business literacy.
Okay, so let's say someone listening gets all this. They're shifting their mindset, they see the value of assets, they want to learn, but something still holds them back. Fear, doubt. What are those internal roadblocks?
Ah, yes. This is huge. Knowing isn't the same as doing. Kiyosaki tackles this head-on, identifying 5 key obstacles. Fear is the first one.
Fear of losing money. We touched on it, but it's worth revisiting. It's a biggie.
It is. But again, the perspective shift is key. Failure is part of the process for the successful. They manage risk. They don't avoid it entirely. Start small, learn, build confidence. Don't let fear paralyze you.
Okay, number 2, cynicism. That negativity, maybe self-doubt, or listening too much to the doom and gloom from others.
Exactly. Oh, that'll never work. Or, that sounds risky. The wealthy tend to do their own homework, trust their analysis, and filter out the noise. Don't let unsubstantiated negativity derail your informed plans.
Makes sense. Third obstacle, laziness.
Yeah.
Not necessarily couch potato laziness, but maybe financial laziness. Avoiding the effort.
Yeah, avoiding taking responsibility for your own financial education and future. Just accepting the status quo, asking, how can I afford it, is the antidote. It forces mental effort and creativity.
Right. It requires engagement. Fourth, bad habits. Spending patterns, maybe not saving.
The big one here is not paying yourself first. Kiyosaki hammers this home. You must prioritize putting money into your asset column before paying bills, before discretionary spending. Make saving and investing a non-negotiable habit.
Treat it like your most important bill.
Exactly. And the last one, arrogance. Thinking you already know it all.
Ooh, dangerous in finance, I bet. Things change so fast.
Incredibly dangerous. It stops you from learning. The wealthy, Kiyosaki argues, remain students. They're humble, they ask questions, they seek advice, they're constantly learning because they know they don't know everything.
So overcoming these is about mindset again. Resilience. Seeing challenges not as stop signs, but as maybe detours or learning opportunities.
That's the core of it, building that mental toughness.
Okay, great. So for someone listening now, feeling maybe inspired but thinking, okay, where do I actually start? The book offers some practical first steps, right? 10 of them.
Yes, it wraps up with a very actionable list, concrete things you can begin doing.
Let's hit a few highlights for everyone. First one, find a strong why. Go deeper than just, I want to be rich.
Yeah, what's the real motivation? More time with family, freedom from a job you dislike, supporting a cause, traveling. That why is the fuel that keeps you going when it gets tough. It has to be personal.
Makes sense. Second, choose to change your thinking. Make that conscious switch from can't afford it to how can I afford it.
That deliberate mental pivot we keep coming back to, it unlocks so much.
Third, choose your friends wisely. Surround yourself with supportive, financially savvy people. Learn from them.
Yeah, that whole you are the average of the 5 people idea. If your circle is negative about money or encourages bad habits, it's harder. Find people who inspire and educate you financially.
Okay. Another one was master one formula first. Don't try to do everything at once. Focus.
Right. Learn about real estate investing or dividend stocks or starting a specific type of business. Get good at one thing, understand it deeply, before diversifying too widely. Depth before breadth initially.
And number 5 brings back that crucial habit. Pay yourself first. Make it automatic.
Non-negotiable. Savings and investments come out before anything else. It forces you to adjust your spending around your wealth-building goals.
Good reminders. The list also included things like paying advisors well, getting your initial capital back from investments, quickly being an Indian giver, as he controversially terms it.
Using assets to buy luxuries, not your paycheck. Finding heroes or mentors to model.
And the last one, maybe the most important, just take action.
Yes. Execute. Knowledge without action is useless. Start small, but start now. Consistent action, even imperfect action, builds momentum. The book even tackles common excuses for inaction.
Right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, deep diving into these rich dad, poor dad principles. If you had to boil it down, what's the core message for our listener today?
I think it's fundamentally empowering. Financial freedom isn't some secret reserved for a lucky few. It's achievable through education, a conscious shift in mindset, and consistent action. It really comes down to understanding assets versus liabilities, and then relentlessly focusing on acquiring assets that make money work for you instead of you always working for it.
Really powerful ideas. Okay, so for you listening, here's a final thought to mull over. Which one of these ideas, assets versus liabilities, working to learn, overcoming fear, paying yourself first, which one resonates most with you right now? Where are you currently in your journey? And then think about this. What's one small, concrete action you can take today? Maybe it's just researching a term, opening a savings account, reading an article, having that conversation. Just one thing.
Because this deep dive, it's not the end. It's hopefully just the beginning of your ongoing financial education.
Exactly. The start of building potentially a much brighter financial future. Thanks for tuning into The Deep Dive.